Life is a funny thing. As soon as you think you've wrapped your hands around it or think you've figured it all out, it evolves. It's always one step ahead, teaching us something new, showing us that as much as we'd love for there to be, there simply is no rule book. What shapes us are our experiences, and while, sure, everyone may be a tad different, these experiences become the lens through which we view the world. So I'd like to share with you 8 of my observations, specifically 8 common misconceptions that I've both seen and lived through. Who knows, maybe there's something in here that just might give you the lift you need on your own journey. Misconception number 1, life is fair. This is the idea that the world owes us something for our struggle. That people putting in the same amount of work will get the same result. That virtue is always rewarded and being selfish is always punished. And that's just not how things are. The truth about life is that everyone's dealt a different hand. We have different strengths, skill sets. We have different opportunities as well as hills to climb and battles to fight. But here's what sets people apart. Understanding that you control where you go from here. That every day is a chance to make the most of the circumstances you're presented, whatever they may be. They can always change. Accomplishments are found in focusing not on what's fair or unfair, but on how to transform your situation. Sure, things won't always go as planned. People less deserving will sometimes advance or achieve. But to focus on that is wasting your opportunity. The space between where you are and where you want to be is the only thing that warrants your time and attention. Misconception number 2, knowledge is king. Now, the idea that knowledge is power is one that's been around since the beginning of time. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Wisdom and understanding, well, they open doors. Just like ignorance very often keeps those same doors shut. But the misconception here is that to know is in itself the answer. It's why we consume and consume and consume information, but so often do very little with it. Whereas action is the key ingredient, the piece that has the biggest impact on our future. Think about a car, right? Where action is the engine that makes it move. If you don't have that, you have 4 wheels and some shiny metal that just sits there and gathers dust. Now, knowledge is also crucial. Knowledge is the steering wheel that drives and directs. You need both, but you can see how without that engine, a steering wheel is worthless. There is no movement, and we spend so much time consuming that we forget to put that vehicle in motion. That is a flawed way to live. It's never enough to think. In order to achieve, we must do. Misconception number 3, there is a right way. How many times have you heard, so you want to do X, Y, and Z with your life? Here are the steps. You want to start this business or obtain that result? Well, just look at how he or she did it. But this idea fails to take into account how different we all are. We all take different paths. We come from different situations. We have different goals and aspirations. Just because Mike got his dream job after 10 years in the Boy Scouts, 4 years in college, and 3 years of graduate school, that doesn't mean that's what you need to do. That's not a requirement. We're allowed to explore, to take the road less traveled. Doing so doesn't mean you won't get to your goal. In fact, what we learn by taking our own path is that it often leads to discoveries that change our lives for the better. The wrong turns become lessons and the victories bring further clarity. So don't restrict yourself and your abilities by following the maps that have already been written. As J.R.R. Tolkien said, not all who wander are lost. Misconception number 4, being uncomfortable is a negative. The lizard brain in all of us, it wants us to avoid discomfort. Deeply rooted within us is the desire to avoid things that bring us pain or make us uncomfortable, and this carries through to all aspects of life. It's why we shy away from change. We avoid awkward or difficult situations because we look at pain as the monster in the closet. But this, in many ways, is untrue. First of all, without the discomfort, we can't learn to appreciate the great things in life. But just as important is the fact that uncomfortable situations position us to grow, to learn. A life without discomfort is destined for stagnation, underperformance. It will be void of the gratification that makes every day worth living. Discomfort is not bad. It's a ladder to all that's good. Misconception number 5, people think about you often. How often have your actions been influenced by what others may think? Maybe you didn't move forward or you were hesitant because of an assumed response. We even create scenarios in our heads indicating that people are watching or interested in our actions. But here's the reality with all this. People are indifferent. Just like you, their primary focus is on themselves. They're not waiting to judge you if you mess up or critique your every move. These are narratives that we create, we adhere to, and they can be obstacles in our lives. So remove all that. Do what's best for you and your goal, and let all the other stuff fade away. Misconception number 6, great minds think alike. As a kid, I remember hearing the question, if your friends were to jump off a bridge, would you do it too? The answer, should be obvious. Of course not. Just because they're doing it doesn't make it right. But here's the interesting thing. This whole follow the crowd mentality isn't something that we grow out of in a lot of ways. Our lives today are consumed by many irrational actions that we conform to because it's deemed correct by the majority. Social pressure has a heavy influence on how we act and why. What we wear, what we say, what jobs we take, what we watch on TV, political association, the list goes on and on and on. But what one comes to eventually realize is that the very nature of excellence requires that we look at conformity differently. That it's the one who steps back and says, wait a minute, this is silly, this is counterproductive. That's the individual that has the greatest impact, not only on their own lives, but on humanity. The crowd going right isn't always an indicator that they are moving toward the best possible outcome. In fact, it's often a call to stop and question just why no one is going left. Misconception number 7, happiness is acquired. It's a commonly held belief that happiness is something that's obtained, where some people believe relationships will bring it about. Others look to material solutions, wealth, and on and on and on. And there's this misconception that it's a quest, that it can be hunted down. But that's simply not the case. Happiness is something that comes from within you and it's reflected externally onto the world around you. And when you don't realize this, when you attempt to find happiness elsewhere, you realize that as you acquire more and more and more, the void isn't filled because there's always a next step, there's always a next level. Happiness becomes that carrot dangling in front of you that you can just never reach. But when you do make a point to find it within yourself, life becomes that metaphorical carrot. We build a happy existence around us. Misconception number 8, there is always tomorrow. Because we can't see a physical end point for our time on this incredible planet, it's very easy to forget the fact that it's finite. Every day of our lives has come with a tomorrow. Every night we've gone to bed, the sun's risen the next morning. It's all we know. which is why it's so difficult to come to grips with the fact that it's not something that will last forever. We have a finite amount of time, yet we often treat that time as if we have an abundance of it. Saving the best in life for tomorrow is not only a waste of what we have, but it's a tremendous gamble. We don't know how many tomorrows we'll get. And when you take a step back and truly examine this, there's a very simple takeaway. All we have in life is the current moment, the one we are in. Why give that away? Why sacrifice it? Right now isn't a bridge to tomorrow. It's your winning lottery ticket. You're everything. You'll never have more than the present. So make it count. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked what you heard, make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe so that you catch more videos just like this in the near future. Plenty more to come.